Hey, we're on. Welcome, Garvey's Ghost TV, January 5, 2022. Thanks for joining me. And, for the intro music, that is me, Whhyyyyyy Music. Made that back in 2012? Yeah, 2012. You can get it on iTunes, just in case you were wondering. Yeah. So, before I go on, note that this broadcast will be on BitChute and Rumble and Odyssey. So if you miss it, you can watch it over there. And I think with that, we're going to get to the topics of the day. First off, I'm going to get straight to Eric Adams because he's been a huge disappointment. New York City is hit with a class action suit over private employer vaccine mandate. Now, I said last year that Eric Adams, the first thing he should have done soon as he got in office is he should have just axed the mandate. De Blasio was incredibly unpopular. It's a democratic city. He was unpopular, and that was a big part of it. First day he should have axed it, and his failure to do that is this. And I hope they win, and I hope Eric Adams, gets a clue. And I'm not giving him any slack just because he's black. None at all. De Blasio is a failure for doing that, and Adams is a failure for continuing that. And I have special ire for Adams because as a black man, he should know better than to do discrimination. Signs in windows, unvaccinated, you can't come in. No black person in America, especially someone who's from the descendant of slaves, should be tolerating that kind of stuff. Shame on you, Adams. But that's not the only dumb stuff. Let me just jump on this real quick because I'm trying to keep this to an hour. Here goes his stupid DA. Stop seeking prison sentences in a slew of criminal cases. These people were just going to run these cities into the ground. Imagine seeing what's going on in California and being in New York and saying, we want some of that, right? So this guy sends a memo to his staff. We will not seek a carceral sentence. Means we ain't putting no one in jail. Except for homicides and a handful of other cases, including domestic violence, felonies, and some sex crimes and public corruption. Just in case he can get Trump. Right. But here's the thing. Where is this? Right. The prosecutor should keep in mind the impacts of incarceration. How about this? How about the person who was trying to commit the crime consider the impact on incarceration? How about that? And if he fails to do that, well then tough. Go to jail, you do the time, get out. And if you're smart, you don't do stuff to get you back in. So, right, including whether it really does increase public safety. Because someone putting a gun to your head is not a threat to public safety. I feel personally relaxed when a gun is put to my head. That is a soothing experience. I feel safe because I survived. That's assuming I survive. I think that'll make it go to jail under him. But if he doesn't pull the trigger, my safety has not been threatened. No jail. All right. Potential future barriers to convicts, including housing, employment. Yeah. How about the person committing the crime consider that? Because I'm just saying, if you think you can get away with it, then you thought you were going to get away with it. You got caught. Now, these are the consequences. You should have thought of that ahead of time. Or you thought about that, you rolled the dice, there it is. But the prosecutor, that's not what we paid him for. And trust me, you New Yorkers are paying for this. The financial costs of prison and racial disparities over who gets time. You know, I might have to go over my yes, black crime is a thing blog post. I might just do a special Garvey's Ghost stream just on that blog post because too many people think that somehow there are these missing white murderers out there and that if we just found the white murderers, everything would equal out. We're not even talking about the Asians, right? But the numbers we see are just because white murderers are just letting me let free. That's the kind of mentality that got you this fool here in office. So, this was it. Here we go. Armed robbers who use guns or other deadly weapons to stick up stores and other businesses will be prosecuted only for petty larceny. So let's get this straight. A person comes in your store and takes a bottle of soda. That's petty larceny. If someone rolls in your store, says, yo, give me the soda or I'll stab you, cut your neck. That's petty larceny. Never mind that your life was just threatened. Because they didn't do it. They just had it and threatened with petty larceny. You know what's going to happen in New York? I'm just saying, I feel sorry for the store owners because y'all about to have the wild, wild west. Because I'm serious, but this is saying they can roll up in your store, put a gun to your head. As long as they didn't pull the trigger, petty larceny. This is the criminals caught with weapons other than guns will have those felonies downgraded to misdemeanors, unless they're charged with other serious offenses. Burglars who steal from residential storage areas, parts of homes that aren't accessible to a living area. So, if you got a home in New York City with a garage that you can't get into from your house without going outside, that's not a crime in New York. No, sorry. It's a crime, but it's a low-level Class D that only covers the break-in. You know, there's these videos out in California, I think Oregon, where these robbers just roll up in the store with like a trolley and just dump stuff just to make sure they don't take more than $1,000 of stuff and just roll out without a care in the world. That's what you're going to start seeing in New York, if it's not already happening. Y'all elected that stuff. Enjoy it. So, you know, that's just... Oh, I'm just looking at this. Drug dealers to believe the acting as a low-level agent of seller. That's corner boy to you and me. Will be prosecuted only for misdemeanor possession. Also, suspected dealers will only be prosecuted on felony charges if they're also accused of more serious crimes or are actually caught in the act of selling drugs. Now, look, I don't sell drugs. I don't do drugs. But I do know that the corner boys, they got a system where no one really can be caught selling because the person who handles the money is not the person who handles the product. So each of them has plausible deniability. Yo, I was just handing this off. Or I was just taking this. He just gave me $5. Right? I think I might have to watch The Wire again just to see where this goes. Because this, I'm telling you, New York is in for a nice summer. Anyway, that's Eric Adams and this fool, what's his name? Alvin Bragg. Nothing to brag about. New York is going downhill. And Eric, shame on you and the mandates. So now we're going to go back to the COVID days. Let me go back. Oh, no. Okay. All right. So I know some people like, why is he always talking about COVID? And there's this guy, Louis Rossman on YouTube. He fixes Macs. And he put it succinctly. Because this affects all of us. If it was just about medication and some people didn't take it and everything else was normal, I wouldn't talk about it. In fact, for most of 2020, January, February, March, I didn't talk about it on purpose because I didn't think, that's my naivety, I didn't think it would get this bad. And I say this bad, I mean the politics and the policies and the legal stuff. I'm not talking about the actual illness. I didn't think it would get like this. That was my fault. I was blind to that. I admit it. So this is why I talk about, because it's affecting people seriously, money-wise, health-wise, mental-wise, children's educations, jobs. It's just ridiculous. And people need to talk about it when they can, because it's ridiculous. But the topic of this podcast is why? Because they're all going, why? And as a first example, we're going to have Joe Biden, President Chief. Anyway, so Biden, who insulted the citizens of America, which is a habit amongst Democrats. Ever since Hillary went with her basket of deplorables, it just seems like it's acceptable for Democrats to insult people who vote for them. I don't understand it. Anyway, so Biden is in January of 2022 saying this continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Okay, Mr. President, let's see about that. Oh, look. Whoopi Goldberg, stunned by testing positive for COVID. I've done everything I'm supposed to do. Whoops. I got nothing else to say. I bet all those women on that The View, they've been multiple times. Did everything so. Oh my God. My God. So, Mr. Biden, how is this a pandemic of the unvaccinated? You got people who are vaccinated coming up positive. Okay, maybe it's just what they call that, an anecdote. So let's go to the AP. Why are so many vaccinated people getting COVID-19 lately? Yeah, I got questions. Got questions. Got questions. We got questions. Why are so many vaccinated people getting COVID-19 late? A couple of factors are at play, starting with the emergence of the highly contagious Omicron variant. Omicron is more likely to infect people, even if it doesn't make them very sick. Well, I'm glad they admitted to that. Its surge coincided with the holiday travel season in many places. People might mistakenly think the COVID-19 vaccines will completely block infection. Wait a minute, wait a minute. How did people get this idea that people might mistakenly think COVID-19 vaccines will completely block infections? But the shots are mainly designed to prevent severe illness, says Louis Mansky, a virus researcher at the University of Minnesota. Where did I go? Hmm. Hmm. Let's see. Let's see. I want to see if I can figure this out. Um. Where is it? It's here somewhere, right? Maybe did I close the tab? I think I closed the tab. I closed the tab. Ah, I think I got it here. I'm sorry, people. No, that's not it. Somehow I closed the tab. Here we go. Okay, here we are. Here we go. CDC walks back director's claim vaccinated people do not carry COVID. So if people are mistakenly thinking that the vaccines prevented infection, they must have got it from somewhere. And apparently, according to KGW8, that's an NBC affiliate, they said Rochelle Walensky's claim raised eyebrows and brought criticism from medical experts, forcing the CDC to backtrack. Really? The CDC got something wrong? No. The CDC got something wrong? They walked something back? No, 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 no. I just can't be reading this. A day after the Centers for Disease Control, like, first of all, let me stop. Look at the date. All right, let me blow this up. All right, boom, boom. So you can see that. 7:50 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, April 1st. Was this a? I hope this wasn't a. I'm hoping this was. This better not be an April Fool's joke. I'm really hoping this is not an April Fool's. I don't like seeing that. You know what? On the safe side, I need. Let me go to the New York Times link. See, I don't trust when I see April 1st. April 1st can be a bad thing. I've been through that before. Come on. Open up. Open up. Okay. So it is here. But the page doesn't want to load and stay loaded. Stop. Yeah, all right. Here we go. Sorry about that, people. I try to keep this stuff right. So, Chrome. Hello, Chrome. Here we go. Can vaccinated people spread the virus? We don't know, scientists say. Researchers pushed back after CDC director asserted that vaccinated people do not carry the virus. This is also April 1st, but you don't have April Fool's jokes on New York Times, so I'm okay with this now. So the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention on Thursday walked back controversial statements by its director, Dr. Rochelle P. Walensky, suggesting that people who are vaccinated against coronavirus never become infected or transmit the virus to others. So, on the record, this is the paper of record, the CDC from Rochelle Walensky, said that the vaccines would prevent transmission because they would never, quote, this is a quote, never become infected or transmit the virus to others. Okay, so I'll minimize that. We can take back to here. So, Mr. Biden continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Sir, have you been contradicted by your CDC director? Because she says that people who take the vaccines can get and transmit. But I'm still gonna give Joe Biden some rope, because that's just still, we only have 2 points. We got Whoops Goldberg going, why am I infected? And we have Walensky. Let's go to the data. So here we are. This is from MedRx. This is effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccines against Omicron or Delta infection. Notice, this is a preprint. That means it hasn't finished going through peer review, which means this could be changed later. So I'm just reading what this paper is putting out so far, just to make it clear for certain people who are watching this who might try and be funny. Right? Here are the results. Right? Results. We included 3,442 Omicron positive cases, 9,201 Delta positive cases, and 471,545 test negative controls. After 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccine effectiveness against Delta infection declined steadily over time. To what? They didn't say. But recovered to 93% greater than 7 days, greater than or equal to 7 days after receiving an mRNA vaccine for the third dose. In contrast, receipt of 2 doses of the COVID-19 vaccines was not protective against Omicron. I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to highlight it because I'm not saying it. I'm just reading the paper from MedRx. In contrast, receipt of 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccines was not protective against Omicron. Vaccine effectiveness against Omicron was 37%, greater or equal to 7 days after receiving an mRNA vaccine for the third dose. 37%. Now, I'm pretty good at math. So if there's an effectiveness of 37%, that would mean somewhere of 63% of people who took 2 shots and a booster were not protected against COVID-19, right? 100 minus 37, right? Slash the 1, carried over, slash 9, carry the 1, right? 10 minus 7, 3, right? 9 minus 3, 6, and the 0 falls down. That's the math. We just did it. And they said 37% were effective. So 63% of people who were vaccinated are susceptible to Omicron. So, Mr. Joe Biden, this continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. Question: is Joe Biden spreading medical misinformation? Does he know more than Sarah Buchanan, Hannah Chung, Kevin A. Brown, Peter Austin, Deshane Fell, Jonathan Gubay, Sharifa Nazreen, Kevin Schwartz, Maria Sundaram, Mina Kumanan Wilson, Sarah E. Wilson, and Jeffrey C. Kwong? I asked my question. I don't think Joe Biden knows more than them. Heck, I don't know as much as them. But that's what they're reporting. They did the experiment. So why is Joe Biden using his office to spread what is clearly wrong information? And who's going to check him on that? That's a good question, ain't it? Now here's another. Right, so we had this whole, why is so many vaccines? So I'm done with that one. Health system in Michigan with over 99% vaccination compliance rate has nearly 700 employees test positive for COVID-19. Wow. The Henry Ford Health System had nearly 700 employees test positive in 1 week. And that's about 2% of its total workforce. Sick employees are required to quarantine, blah, 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 blah. In the last 7 days, 686 team members have tested positive for COVID. Stop real quick. They're positive. Does not necessarily mean they're sick. There's infected and they're sick. That's why we talk about asymptomatic. If you're asymptomatic, you're not sick. Just like you can be HIV positive, but not sick or have AIDS. Okay? So that doesn't tell you much. Positive. The cycle count on the PCR test could tell you whether they're infective or not, or transmissive or not, but it doesn't mean they're sick. And that's why you're seeing them playing around with the quarantine time. So we had to close 97 beds in 3 of our hospitals, mostly due to staffing challenges. I wonder if they fired people. Oh, I just asked, and here we go. Henry Ford Health System was the first health system in Michigan to mandate COVID-19 vaccinations for its employees with a September 10th, 2021 deadline. Despite protests and the threat of litigation, 99% of the 33,000 workers were fully or partially vaccinated. And going further down, right, as of October 5th, 99% of the staff were compliant with this requirement. Now, from my own personal experience, compliant can mean we got rid of all the people who were not compliant. That's how you can get. So let's say you have 100 employees, 25 said no. You have a 75% compliance rate. You want to get to 100%? Fire the 25. Now you've got 75 employees, all of which are in compliance, right? But now you fired these 25 people, and what do you got to do? We had to close 97 beds. So now your hospital is overrun with patients, and you fired staff. That sounds smart. That sounds real smart. So, and on top of that, after doing all of that, firing people, because we know they did, all this compliance, and you still had a 700 employee outbreak. I'm just saying, I got questions. And Mr. Biden continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. I think the date is clear. No. So here's we just read that one. And the New York Times. And this is this is one thing I want to get into. We're in half an hour. We're pretty good. So, have you thought about why you haven't seen advertisements for any of the vaccines in particular? You thought about that? You see a lot of public service messages and government-sponsored messages, but you haven't seen those like Zyrtec, Tylenol, Advil. You see those commercials, but you don't see stuff. I mean, you would think in the middle of a pandemic, and you have this magic vaccine that the companies would just be advertising. Well, I have a thing about that. See, there is a law about if you have an advertisement that they're for medical, for medicine, I think any medical procedure, but for medicine, for our cases, that there are certain things you have to do. And that is, part of that is disclosure of side effects. Now, we're going to go back to the browser here. And here, I'm going to highlight this part. Load up a little bit. All right, here we go. For which exists substantial clinical experience, on the basis of which can be fairly and responsibly concluded by a qualified expert that a drug is safe and effective for such uses, or for which safety is supported under any preceding clauses in paragraphs E4, 3A, B, and C. An advertisement shall present information relating to each specific side effect and contraindication that is required, approved, or permitted in the package labeling by sections 201, sorry, of this chapter of drug dosage forms, or shall otherwise conform to provisions of paragraph E3(3). Right? So here it is. If it fails to present, right, it is false or misleading to respect to side effects, contradictions, or effectiveness, or it fails to present a fair balance between information relating to side effects and contraindications. So that's no advertisement shall be considered to be in violation of this section if the presentation of true information relating to side effects and contradictions is comparable in depth and details with the claims of effectiveness or safety. So in other words, they have to present side effects. Now, what do you think the public would say if Pfizer or Moderna or J&J ran an advertisement with all those smiling kids and all those people smiling with their mask on and the tape, the Band-Aid, and then they said, "Here's a chance of death"? I don't know. Some people may not like that. And then they'd have to talk about the myocarditis and the pericarditis. They'd have to spell it out if they make an ad. Just think about that. Maybe that's why the government is making the ads that doesn't specify any particular vaccine. So it's not advertising a vaccine. It is advertising the promotion of vaccines. Just something to think about. Meanwhile, oh yeah, this is so. Let me pause this because this. So, a couple of episodes back, we were talking. No, I think it was the last episode. Trying to do so many. Anyway, talking about exercise and the importance of eating well and stuff. And we saw that CNN is saying it now. Exercise is important. Diet's important. We'll get to another one. And the state of Hawaii, I think it was state of Hawaii, did this advertisement. And watch this thing, because this is just ridiculous. Easiest resolutions for 2022. All right. Eating healthier. Nope. Exercise regularly. Nope. Save money. Well, you should save that. Yeah. Get vaccinated. Ding. So, a state government made an advertisement, knowing all that we know now, says CNN has even admitted that being healthy, which means eating healthy, exercise, is important. And this state government says better to be vaccinated than to eat healthy and exercise. In fact, forgo eating healthily and exercise and just take a shot. Meanwhile, according to the data, vaccine effectiveness against Omicron was 37%, equal to 7 days after receiving the third dose. So 63% of people who had these doses are not protected against Omicron. That's what the researchers are saying. And the state's saying, don't eat. Even though we already showed from the previous episode that obesity is a killer when it comes to COVID. It's just silly. It's silly. I don't understand these people. Don't understand it. Don't understand them. So there was one other item, but it's gone. That's one thing when you have so many things open that you want to go over. I'm going to stop here with this one other item. And this is the suit that's going on for the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is going to be hearing arguments, I believe, on the 7th, Friday. And it's pretty important how they decide. I've said here, is that they're just going to talk about federal power versus state power, and that OSHA's overbroad, that the mandate's overbroad, the rule is overbroad and tramples on state powers. My issue is that we should be talking about individual right. The individual has a right to whether they will have medical treatment of any kind. And they have a right to say no. And they have a right to say no and not face consequences, whether that be employment, being segregated, that kind of stuff. And that anytime you go against that without an emergency is someone dropped a biological agent on a town. They just blew up something. That's an emergency. That's the only time you could really just go in there and say, hey, this is what you got to do, or else. Or we're going to put you aside because we can't have you spread in this locale for this limited amount of time. This whole two plus years emergency, that shouldn't fly. And the Supreme Court, my position is that the Supreme Court has to address that. And if they fail to address that, all you're going to see is the mandates go from the federal level to the state. And it's going to be basically a blue state, red state thing. Blue states are going to go crazy because the Supreme Court will have said this is a states' rights issue. And the red states is just not going to do it. And that's why I think it needs to be individual liberty going up, because according to the Constitution, if you go back to my second cast, the USSA, where I go over the Constitution, that power is not delegated to the states or to the Fed, are reserved by the peoples. That means we already have it. We just didn't give it up. And because we haven't given up, we retain it. Neither the federal government or the state government has a right to make these impositions. And that's where I believe the Supreme Court needs to go. Unfortunately, in this argument I'm not seeing this argument. And I'm really concerned about that. Now, I'm sure some people, lawyers, are saying, we got to go step by step. And I guess so. I'm not a lawyer. But I'm like, we need to get to the bottom line pronto. But just going back to this whole transmission, this has made it into the appeal. Now, I will say, we have reports that the entire members of the Supreme Court have been boosted. So we have this thing where people who are possibly genuinely afraid of COVID having a conflict of interest making these decisions. I don't know how that's going to play out, but I think that's what we have. And we'll see how that rolls out. But here we say the COVID vaccines do not prevent infection or transmission of SARS-CoV-2 virus. They only reduce symptoms after infection. The clinical trials for COVID-19 vaccines were only designed to measure effectiveness against symptoms of an infection, not against contracting the virus or transmitting the infection to others. And I think everything we've discussed in this segment, this episode, has underlined that. Walensky said it. CDC walked back that whole you can't get infected and you can't spread it. Even though the president is talking nonsense, we have plenty of examples from ships, hospitals, TV shows where people just popping up. We look at worldometers, we're seeing infections is off the chain, blew through the roof. So that's going to undercut the whole emergency argument, which is what they do in this entire piece. And there's a lot of highlights here. But what was interesting, the COVID-19 vaccines could not fully block viral infections and replications in the noses of monkeys upon viral exposure, which is confirmed by nasal, throat, and anal swabs. I do not want to be the person who had to swab a monkey's butt. I'm just saying. I hope they were asleep. Another one here is that a study of infections across 36 counties in Wisconsin by the CDC's and Wisconsin's Department of Health observed high viral load in 68% of fully vaccinated individuals and 63% of unvaccinated individuals, which means it was basically equal. And I know about this paper because I've had this paper in my signature for my email. But again, that puts a lie to Mr. Biden saying this continues to be a pandemic of the unvaccinated. That puts a lie to that. Vaccinated individuals will shed virus and will do so at the same rate as unvaccinated individuals because they're the same percent. The standout observation was that amongst those who were asymptomatic, meaning no symptoms but yet infectious, 29% of the unvaccinated subjects had high viral loads, while 82% of the fully vaccinated subjects had a high viral load. So, again, for those people at YouTube who may be seeing this and getting their panties in a bunch, here are the references for these codes. So here is the one for the monkeys. That's 19. That's evaluation of mRNA 1273 vaccine against SARS-CoV-2 in non-human primates. And the one with the Wisconsin, that is reference 21, which is shedding of infectious SARS-CoV-2 despite vaccination. And this is, it was a version 4. There were 4 versions of this. So again, I'm not spreading misinformation. I'm reading the peer-reviewed paper from a court-submitted document that is being considered by the Supreme Court of the United States. If you have a problem with it, talk to them. I'm just reading the paper. So again, all the evidence is really in. We already know about transmission. We know about infectivity. We know that for Omicron, that 63% at least are susceptible if they've had 3 shots, and that's where they are. So this is something you really gotta really think about. That this has to be ruled on. So that's gonna be my stuff for today. Kept it short because you got some on Monday, and I will likely be offline till Saturday. Because of the weather up here, I gotta do snow duty. So hoping you all stay safe out there this winter. Stay warm. If you're somewhere warm watching this, keep being warm. You don't want snow. And thing.